and welcome back. My name's Maddie and you are watching True Summer Knits. Today I am here with my fall knitting plans. Where I live, it's still 100 degrees every day, but I'm kind of getting over summer knitting and I'm ready to just get started knitting sweaters and cardigans and stuff just so I can be prepared for when fall comes. So I've got about 10 things in my Ravelry queue. I've got some ideas for some yarns I might use, and I do have also one bonus project that I've already started, which I'll just briefly tell you about. But let's get into it. So real quick, I'll just briefly tell you about the pattern that I've already started knitting. Now, if you keep up with my podcasts, I've already mentioned that I started something else with this yarn, but as I am known to do, I frogged what I started and started something else because my gauge was off. I wasn't liking it. I'd started the Cloud Blouse by Petite Knit, and I was using Knitting for Olive merino and soft silk mohair in the shade limestone, which I have a ball of right here. I'll show you real quick. This is a limestone. It's just a really pretty grayish white color. My gauge was just completely off with Cloud Blouse, and I'll talk more about that in my next podcast episode, but I frogged it and I cast on the Paul sweater, which is going to be my first sweater of the year. The Paul sweater is by moreca, I don't know if I'm saying that right, moreca Knits, and it's basically just a slightly oversized V-neck sweater. I think the best way I can describe it is it's like a saddle shoulder design. You basically start in the back, you knit two little squares for each shoulder, and there's like a provisional cast on so you can easily pick up later for the sleeves. You shape the neckline using like short rows, you connect the two shoulders in the back, and then you pick up for the front, knit the front neckline, and then you just knit the body from there, and then later you pick up for the sleeves. It's a really nice design. I've wanted a V-neck sweater like this. I really like the mitered V thing that it's got going on. A lot of V-necks have that, and it worked for the yarn that I had. So I'm really excited to have this. Some stats about this pattern. She does call it a sport weight yarn, but it's just a fingering weight and a mohair held together, like a lot of patterns are these days. The gauge is 22 stitches by 31, I never know how to say this. 22 stitches and 31 rows equals 4 by 4 inches or 10 by 10 centimeters. I'm gonna say it like that. So it's a pretty standard like DK weight gauge. Mostly it's knitted on 4mm needles, and it looks like some of the finishing is done on 2.75mm needles, and it does come in sizes extra small to 3XL. I am knitting the small because my gauge, I'm never sure if I'm on gauge or not. I measure it in different parts, and it seems like mostly I'm getting 22 stitches, but also it seems sometimes like I'm getting 6 stitches per inch, which is more like 24 stitches per 4 inches. So I kind of did the math, and I think if I do the size small, I should get somewhere in between size extra small and small, and that should give me a fit I'm happy with. And so far, as I've been working on it, it looks like I'm getting something that I like. So yeah, that's what I'm going with. I really am not sure if I'm going to have enough yarn. I have five balls of each of the merino and the mohair, and I'm hoping that's enough. I guess if I don't, I'll just order more, but I don't know. I'm not 100% confident on that. But I'll insert a picture of the back shoulder design because it looks really cool. It looks very like preppy in this way that I really like. And I'm just really excited to have this in my wardrobe. I feel like this honestly is a better thing for me to be working on than the Cloud Blouse, because I mentioned this a few episodes ago, but the reason I started knitting this sweater was because I'm inside a lot, and I just wanted like a cozy sweater that like looks nice, but also I can wear inside the house, and I feel like the Cloud Blouse probably would not have fit that description. So I think the Paul sweater is going to be exactly what I wanted it to be, and I'm really excited to have it done. And it's like, the construction's interesting, so I'm learning something new, even though it's just done in stockinette. Also, it's meant to have 7 3/4 of an inch positive ease, or 20 centimeters. So that's a project I'm already started. But the rest of the projects are what's listed on my queue on Ravelry right now, and I will start with number one, which is actually not a sweater, but very, very applicable for fall where I live, in my opinion. And that is the Papyrus top by Ullen Knitwear. She designed this for summer, but to me, anything with like a mock neck is probably more of like a fall kind of thing. Like I want basics like this to wear under, like jackets or cardigans or blazers, and I feel like that'll be like a really good staple for me to have where I live. Something that can be worn the entire fall and winter season. So it's just a simple like fitted. It looks like it's got negative ease, and it's got a stockinette mock neck, which I'm curious how she does that. It looks really interesting. She suggests the knitting for olive cotton merino. I have some knitting for olive merino in stash. I do also have cotton merino in stash. I have 3 balls of the Japanese anemone, and I can never figure out what I want to do with it. So it's just kind of languishing there until I feel like something could work for it. I feel like this could, but I honestly feel like the Japanese anemone is a little bright for me, so I haven't really been sure what to do with it. But what I'm going to be knitting this pattern with is the Knitting for Olive Merino in the shade Dusty Aqua. And it's just kind of a muted turquoisey green color. And I think that'll be a really good like base layer to have. The gauge is 27 stitches by 43 rows for 4 by 4 inches. It's knitted on 3mm needles. Let's see the construction. She doesn't go into detail on the construction on her Ravelry page, but I actually have this pattern, so I'll just give you the basics. So it looks like it's pretty standard for a lot of like sleeveless summer tops. It's done top down. You start with the left side, you do increases for the neckline. Do the other side, you join them. You start your increases for the armholes. I'm guessing that you pick up for the back yoke. You knit that the same way, but it looks like she doesn't do as many increases so that you have a higher back neck. And then you just knit down in the round. The bottom hem is finished off with an I-cord, and then you just pick up for the neck and you knit the mock neck. So it seems like a pretty basic top. I feel like I could get one of these done pretty fast. Yeah, I'm excited to have that, and maybe I will knit it in another color at some point if I have some extra yarn and need something else to do. So this next top is something, it's a sweater. It's something I really want to knit, but I'm unsure if this pattern is right for me, and that's mostly because of the gauge. But I can't find any other pattern with like the kind of design that's just like this, like that I want. But so I might have to just use this pattern and do some reworking to get the gauge and the yarn that I want. So this is the Marilyn turtleneck by Fabel Knitwear. I love Fabel Knitwear's designs. I'm really into her style. I really like the vintage thing that she's got going on, but I don't understand her gauge. Like for this, it's a fingering weight yarn, and she says her gauge is 20 stitches by 4 rows. Or I'm sorry, 20 stitches per 4 inches. That doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like if you got 20 stitches per 4 inches with a fingering weight yarn, it would be very loose, and looking at her pictures, I can't tell if her gauge is loose. I feel like it doesn't look the most even. So technically I could substitute a DK weight yarn, but then I feel like I'd get a thicker fabric than I would want. So I really would like to get a fingering weight gauge, like a classic fingering weight gauge, and knit this sweater with it. Like it would take a while, but like it'd be a really nice piece, you know what I mean? So there's not much. I would have to heavily like go through and basically regrade the entire pattern for the gauge that I want to get the sweater that I want. And I mean, it's all in stockinette, so I guess it wouldn't be the worst thing ever, but it's just a little irritating. I feel like if I'm paying for a pattern, I kind of just don't want to bother having to make like such large modifications like that. But I spent a while looking for similar patterns, and I can't really find any that I want. So I feel like I'm just gonna have to, if I really do want to knit this, I'm gonna have to just bite the bullet and try to regrade it myself. I mean, I know I can, it's just kind of like I don't want to, you know what I mean? And all of her patterns are like this. Like she has DK weight patterns that are like a worsted weight gauge, and it just doesn't really make sense to me. Like, and I don't really know how she's doing that. I mean, I don't know. That's just a little crazy to me. But if you knit it as she intends it, it's a 20 stitch gauge, knitted on 4mm needles. I also wouldn't knit a fingering weight yarn on 4mm needles. And so I'm just wondering if her yarn is actually like more of a DK weight, or if she really just likes these looser fabrics. I really don't know. And this pattern is graded from extra small to 3XL. It's cropped, it's fitted, I really like that. I really like the very subtle like puffs at the shoulders. Like, it's not dramatic, it's just got like a little bit of like that vintage flair to it, you know what I mean? Which I really enjoy. And you can do it as either like a full fold-over turtleneck or just a mock turtleneck. Just feel like I would love to take the time to knit this in like a real fingering weight, like a wool yarn, and have a sweater that will last me a long time and like will always be in style. So the design, I love it. I don't know if I want to do it because of the gauge. I feel like I could, or maybe it wouldn't be too difficult to just maybe draft something similar in the gauge that I want, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. If you know of any patterns that are similar, that are in an actual fingering weight gauge, please let me know. I would love to check out some alternatives. I spent a long time looking, but there aren't the best selections of fitted sweaters, I feel like, on Ravelry, at least that I can find. And if I did knit that, I would probably just use some kind of fingering weight merino. Like to branch out a little bit from knitting for olive. I could do like a sock yarn, or I could do maybe like Santa's Garden Sunday, or just some other yarn like that. I know Cascade has their superwash fingering weight merino, so there are options. It would just be something like that. It would just depend on the color I want and what yarn I am okay with buying at that moment. I don't know. So the third one is a cardigan. The next two patterns that I have on my queue are cardigans. And this one is the Calm Down cardigan by Lily Kate France. I really like this cardigan. I almost feel like it's a slightly more relaxed alternative to the April cardigan by Petite Knit, which isn't technically on my queue, although I have these vague plans to knit it at some point. But this is a really cute V-neck cardigan. It's not like oversized, it's just more of like a relaxed fit, which I feel like I really like because I really do want something basic that I can wear over a lot of different clothing. You know what I mean? It's a DK weight knit. It's 22 stitches and 32 rows by 4 inches. So again, I could use just any DK weight yarn. I don't think I want to use a merino and a mohair for this. Couple of yarns I'm thinking about. Knit Picks has some really good DK weight yarns, and I was thinking either Gloss DK or Swish DK. Gloss DK is 70% merino, 30% silk, and the Swish DK is 100% superwash merino, and they have really nice soft yarns, so I feel like either of those would work. When it comes to cardigans, I want to have something that's really basic, but then I also want to have something that's maybe a little bit more of a fun color, and I was thinking this one might be a good opportunity for like a slightly more fun color. I was thinking maybe like a muted lilac. In both those types of yarns, they have a couple of like lilac options, and I'll like put those up real quick so you can see. But I don't know if they're a little brighter than I want, but they do have some nice grays, and I could knit it in a gray. I'm just not really sure, because the other cardigan I'm going to talk about, I want to knit in like this dark, cool brown, so I don't want to do that. But since the other one's going to be a darker color, I feel like I would want this one to be like a lighter color. So I have like both ends of the spectrum, you know what I mean? I'm trying to think of like my wardrobe as a whole. So yeah, those are some options. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I definitely want to try one of those yarns from Knit Picks to knit this with when I do knit it. She knit hers in BC Garn Loch Lomond, which I just guess is 100% wool yarn, and she does knit this on 4mm needles. It's got 9 sizes, and it's meant to have 10 to 12 inches of positive ease, although it really doesn't look that oversized. I think that's just kind of a cardigan thing. It does look very, like, what's the word? Elegant. Very luxurious, I feel like. I just want to have this knitted in a really soft, like, nice quality wool yarn. and I'm excited to make this. It is a saddle shoulders design, so you knit it from the top down. It looks like you start knitting the saddle shoulder itself. It's done in rib. It's got like this little line of rib going down the shoulder, which I think is a nice touch. And then you'll pick up along the edge of the saddle shoulders to start forming the rest of the yoke and the shoulders. And then you're just doing increases to shape, the armholes and the neckline. And then once you get like both fronts done, you connect them and work the back. And then once you finish the fronts, you do the back, you connect them all. And then the rest of it is just knitted flat down. And it looks like it has a double knit button band. Yes, it does have a double knit button band, and then it just has a regular 1x1 hem, like a 1x1 ribbing hem, and same on the sleeves. So it's basic, but it works, and I feel like this might be a little bit more versatile for me than the April cardigan, because I love the design of the April cardigan. I love fitted cropped things, but I really do like to wear my cardigans open, and I feel like that's a big reason why I don't like round neck cardigans, because they really feel like they're not meant to be worn open, and you have to be like really careful about what kind of shirts you wear underneath a round neck cardigan. All the ones I've had, I just end up never wearing because I don't like them. So I'm exclusively looking at V-neck cardigans. But yeah, the calm down cardigan, possibly in a lilac color or maybe a gray color. That's a definite plan for the fall. The next pattern that I have on my queue is another cardigan, and this is the Eva cardigan by Petite Knit. This is a bit more oversized. It's still kind of like a V-neck, but I'd say it's more of just like a taper, so it really looks like it's meant to be worn open. This is a cardigan that I want to have in a dark color. I think that the Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino should work for this, which I've never used that yarn. Obviously it's similar to the merino, but it's a thicker yarn. This is listed as a DK weight, but it's a 20 stitch gauge, so it's like a slightly heavier DK. And I think I saw people on Ravelry use the heavy merino. And I want to knit this possibly in dark mousse or dusty mousse. Dark mousse is obviously darker, but they're both very like cool toned ashy browns, which look good on me. And I think I would really like to have like a cardigan in that color, because it kind of would go with like a lot of things that I wear. So one of those colors for sure. I don't know which one, but they both look really nice, and I think they would look really nice in this pattern. It's just a simple stockinette cardigan. Let's see what the construction is. It looks like it's done in some kind of contiguous set-in sleeve construction. Looks like you start at the back neck and you work the back yoke, do increases to do all the shaping back there, and then I think you pick up for the front, and then obviously you just work the body back and forth. It's a cardigan, so it's not going to be in the round, and then you pick up and knit the sleeves. And then I don't typically like 2x2 rib. I honestly feel like a lot of times I'm just a 2x2 rib hater, especially on like camisoles and stuff. I feel like it doesn't look good, but on an oversized garment like this, I feel like I can't imagine. I feel like the 2x2 rib really makes this. Like it really makes it like comfortable, and that's another reason I also really wouldn't want to use mohair with this, because I feel like this kind of needs that slightly more rugged look. It's hard for me to kind of get across what I'm saying, but I just feel like it looks almost comfier and like, I don't know, more utilitarian. I really don't know, but I just think this in like a kind of a more maybe dense fabric is really what kind of gives it the vibe that I'm wanting from this cardigan. So this is also another definite. And this is knitted on 4mm needles. And just like a lot of petite knit patterns, it comes from extra small to 5XL. So lots of options. This cardigan is also meant to have 10¼ inches of positive ease. So the next pattern is another top. I know knitting these sleeveless tops is a little less common for knitters in the fall, but for me, I feel like if I'm going to wear a knitted top that has like more texture, it's a little bit, it's not like negative ease, I feel like the fall is when that makes sense for my wardrobe. So this is the twist loop top by Other Loops, which I'm sure a lot of you have already seen. It's just a really pretty camisole type design. It's got this like twisted cable going down the front, and then it has some thick ribbing on the side, and I think it's meant to have a little bit of positive ease. No, it says it has negative ease, but it doesn't look like there's any waist shaping, so it kind of just like falls on the body. And I really like this top. I have a few ideas for what I would want to knit it in. I feel like obviously since you have such like that complex design on the front, you have to knit it in a light yarn. And I really like her sample in gray. I don't know exactly which kind of yarn I would use. Obviously I could use the Knitting for Olive merino, or I could use like a sock yarn. I've mentioned in the past that Knit Picks has this sock yarn that's like the Capretta sock yarn, and it's got like merino and some cashmere in it, and it's super soft, and it has like nice stitch definition, so I feel like that could be a good yarn for this pattern. I already have a couple balls of it in my stash. I don't think that'd be enough, but I know that I'm definitely thinking probably using a gray yarn for this. I just think really like her sample, and I feel like that would look really good in my wardrobe. Like imagine this twist loop top in gray, and then I have like my dark ash brown Eva cardigan on top. That would just be a look. So that's definitely a plan. The negative is that this pattern is only available from extra small to 2XL, which is unfortunate. I don't know if she is expanding her size range. I mean, she's getting to be a bigger designer, but I really am not sure. But it is a really beautiful design, and this just doesn't come across as a summer top to me. I don't know why. I feel like it would be weird to wear with shorts. I feel like this needs to be worn with like jeans and Mary Janes or boots. And if I feel like I need to wear something with jeans, it's automatically a fall top because you can't wear jeans in the summer here. The construction is worked like a lot of camisoles. You just start at the shoulders, increase for the neck, you're working it in pattern, and then you join to form the front, and then you just knit until you're at the bottom of the armholes for the front panel. Do the same for the back, join in the round, and the rest is knitted in the round. But this is a really beautiful top, and I'm excited to have this at some point. So I actually have 2 patterns by Moreca Knits on this list, and this is probably one of my favorite patterns that she's ever made. I as soon as the first pattern in this series, so to speak, that I saw was her Chantal cardigan, which the way the cardigan is designed, like it's kind of like a bigger, like you tie it. I don't think I would want that in my wardrobe, but the slip stitch pattern is beautiful. I've had this thing lately where I'm obsessed with slip stitch patterns. I just think they're so pretty, and it's like it gives you that slight bit of texture, like a little bit more than stockinette, but it's not complicated. So this is a Chantal sweater, and I'm obsessed with it. And I've been saying that I'm trying to branch away from knitting for Olive, but my plan for this one is to knit this in. There's a few colors from Knitting for Olive that are very close, and it's hard for me to figure out exactly what they're going to look like, but I've seen a lot of people use the combo of Knitting for Olive oatmeal in the merino and the linen in the soft silk mohair, and it seems to get people this kind of like mid-toned, like ashy brown color, like similar to like the dark mousse but just lighter, and I really like that color, and I feel like it's dark enough to be a little different than my other stuff, but it's light enough that you can still see the slip stitch pattern, and I really think that's the combo I'm going to do. I could also just use oatmeal, but I'm worried that it would be too warm if I use both oatmeal, and I'm worried that if I use both linen, it'd be too dark. But that's the thing that sucks, is I just have to go off of Ravelry project photos, because I can't see this yarn in person, and I don't know what it is going to look like based on the website, because Knitting for Olive I feel like their photos are never accurate. I just don't know what I'm going to get when I order it from Knitting for Olive. So hopefully that yarn combo is what I want it to be, and I think that's what I'm going to do. So obviously the pattern is a all over slip stitch pattern. It's meant to be used with the mohair and a fingering weight yarn held together, and the gauge is 26 stitches by 40 rows. You work the left and right shoulders individually, and then you pick up to work like the front sections, and then you connect them with some cast on stitches for the neckline. I think you pick up then for the back, very similar. You're gonna work everything down to the armholes. She mentions using German short rows to get like a good fit at the shoulders, and then the rest of the body is just knitted in the round. And again, this one also has 2x2 rib, and I feel like it needs it. Like the 2x2 rib really adds something to this design. I really like it. I don't know if it's because it kind of differentiates from, like, the slip stitch pattern can almost kind of look like a ribbing. It's not, but it can kind of like mimic that look. So I feel like the 2x2 ribbing draws like some nice attention, like to your neck and your face. You know what I mean? This pattern is available from extra small to 3XL, and hers is knit in Gepard Wild and Soft and Gepard, is that right? Yeah, it's Gepard Garn Wild and Soft and the Gepard Garn Kid Setta, which is just their fingering weight merino and their lace weight mohair. But I would probably use the knitting for olive just because I really like that specific color combo. I would at some point like to try the Gepard Garn. If anyone has any good resources for buying it in America, let me know. I don't think I would use it for this, but it's definitely a yarn I'd like to try at some point. So this next pattern, I'm again into fingering, like I'd like to do some fingering weight fitted sweaters. And this, again, is similar to like the vibe that Fabel Knitwear does, where it's like kind of vintage and fitted and really like elegant. This is a Filet sweater. I don't know if I'm saying that right. By Caledonia Dreamin' or Lorien Knits. It is just this fitted, like a square neck sweater. It's got like slight balloon sleeves, and then it's like fitted at the cuffs. The front is all done in ribbing, it looks like. Let's see if the sleeves are done in ribbing too. Yeah, the sleeves are done in this ribbing. It looks like it might be 2x2 rib. Oh, it's 3x1 rib. And it's really elegant and beautiful. I find that square neck, that wide square neck, looks really good on me, especially when you have like the long sleeves. And I just absolutely love the design. I found it like on accident, like I just kind of came upon it one day, and I feel like more people need to make it. This should be a more popular design. It's got like a good amount of projects. It's got like 46 projects on Ravelry, but it is just so elegant. This is like the exact look I want for my fall wardrobe. I want to feel elegant. I'm going to buy some new straight leg jeans. It's going to be amazing. I don't know exactly what yarn I want to use for this because I don't know what color I want. I feel like I really like the kind of like dark emerald green that she's got going on. Or I could do kind of like a deeper turquoise. I look good in like those turquoise colors. But obviously you need to use a fingering weight like merino wool. So I would just have to look through all of my merino wool contenders and see which has maybe that like turquoise color that I like. But then, I don't know, maybe I'll get stuck on another color. So it really depends. There's so many yarns I could use. The biggest problem is just going to be figuring out like what color I want to knit this amazing sweater in. If you have any suggestions, let me know. I'd love to see what you think I should knit this sweater in. I could even knit it in like a color like this if I can find something. I really like this color on me. But it's knitted on 3mm needles. The gauge is 33 stitches by 35 rows in that 3x1 rib. It comes from size extra small to 5XL, so a lot of sizes. It's available in English and French. I think the designer is originally French. And it's actually knit bottom up. It's a raglan sleeve, it says. It says there are raglan decreases, but then you have the square neckline. So that'll be interesting, like incorporating the raglan decreases into the square neckline design. I don't like always knit stuff bottom up, but this seems like it'd be simple. It'd be easy to like jump into it because you just start knitting like a circle of rib for a while. So that wouldn't be bad. I was trying to see if it lists how much negative ease it has. It doesn't. It just says it's negative ease. Oh wait, it says there's some photos. Let's see. Okay, I don't know the size. There's like a size chart in the photos, but it's in French. So I don't know that it says like how much negative ease there would be. Hopefully it says in the pattern, but you can definitely tell there's like a good amount of negative ease because it's very fitted. This next one is a dream world project. I don't know when I'm going to be bold enough to cast this on, and if I did, this may be something that I knit in the fall, but it would definitely not be done in the fall. Like this would be like a long-term project to try to get it done to wear for like Christmas or something. This is the Mamba dress, also by Ullen Knitwear. I've got a few Ullen Knitwear patterns in my queue this time. And it's a dress. It's like a sweater dress. It's got like full-length sleeves. It's got this interesting cable pattern going down the front and going on the armholes. And she gives you like different lengths you can knit it to. I remember Handmade by Florence did a mini dress version of it, and that's what I would do, because I would love to like ideally be able to wear this like with tights and boots in the winter. So that'd be nice too, because it wouldn't take as long since it's not like a full-length maxi dress like she has in the photos. But that's definitely what I would do, and honestly, I think I would just probably knit it in gray, maybe a little lighter than the one she has in her sample photos. I just feel like something like this, that you don't want to do like a bright color, because the dress says enough as it is, you know what I mean? I don't even know what yarn I would use. She holds Issachar Alpaca 1 and Alpaca 2 together. I don't think I would do that. I think I would maybe just find some kind of DK weight yarn that has like some good stitch definition and just go from there. Because I don't want to buy all this Issachar yarn. I'm not even really sure the benefit of that would be. I'm sure I could get gauge with just a DK weight yarn. The gauge is 24 stitches by 27 rows in stockinette stitch on 4mm needles. So I guess that would be a smaller DK. I'd have to play around and look at some different yarns, because I feel like that might be more like a sport weight or like a thinner DK. But I could definitely find something that would work. I might go through the Ravelry project pages and see if anyone else has done any interesting substitutes that I could look into. But this pattern has lots of sizes. It comes from extra, extra small to 6XL, which I don't ever see patterns graded up to 6XL, so that's interesting. And it is a positive ease dress. It says it's 6 centimeters positive ease. I want to say that's like 1.5 inches or like around there. I don't know. I think, what is it? Or is 5 centimeters 2 inches? Let's research. So it's about 2.5 inches of ease for all my American friends like me. If I could, I would probably try to add in some waist shaping. I don't know that it includes it. Let's see. Okay, no, so there is no waist shaping, and she says you can like choose different sizes to get like the amount of ease you want. So I might size down and then measure to see what the stitch count around the waist would be. It would probably be easy to add some waist shaping to a dress like this, because I don't know that there's much of a design like right at the sides, so you'd just be decreasing in stockinette, I believe. I don't think that would be too difficult. So I would love for this to be like my Christmas dress. I wouldn't even mind knitting it in like a slightly lighter gray. I just think this would look so good to wear to Christmas. And like, imagine having knit something like this. Like, I feel like this would be like the pinnacle of my career. So maybe at some point, I'm not used to like working on something and like picking it up and putting it down over like a period of time. Usually I'm the kind of person that like sticks to one or two things and like tries to just go for it until I finish it. But this one, I feel like that wouldn't really work, so I'd have to kind of just start and stop and just try to make it like a long-term thing. So I don't even know if I could do that and have it done for Christmas, but we'll see. We'll see how my fall knitting goes. This is definitely like in an ideal world, I'll work on this. And I have another ullen knitwear pattern. This is the last one on the list. This is the season sweater. I love this sweater. It kind of reminds me of the sweater number 15 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, except the cables are just a lot smaller. And I feel like I honestly like it better. It's technically a worsted weight gauge is what she says. It's 20 stitches by 28 rows in 4 inches. She holds like 3 strands together. I think she holds Issachar to Vinny and then 2 strands of the silk mohair. I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to have to figure out what yarn I could substitute it for. I might just, again, look through and see what other people have done. Because it's harder when, like, if the gauge was 20 stitches and it said it was in stockinette, then I could be like, okay, I'll just find a yarn I can knit to 20 stitches in stockinette. But the gauge is obviously in the cable pattern. So I'm not really sure how the cable pattern will affect the gauge. So I'd be hesitant to like buy a whole sweater quantity of yarn and then find out that like it wouldn't work for this pattern. So if anyone's knit this before or has any suggestions for substituting yarn with cable patterns that have 3 strands of yarn held together, please comment down below and let me know what I should do. Because I'm obsessed with this sweater. I have the pattern, I've had it for a while, and I would really love to make this at some point. But it looks like it is knit on 4.5 and 5.5 millimeter needles. It looks like the gauge swatch is done in 5.5, so I'm guessing most of the design is done in 5.5. And it comes in 12 sizes. She is good at having a lot of sizes for her designs. Can't fault her there. Again, she doesn't give much details on the construction, but it definitely looks like maybe it's a little oversized. So definitely has some positive ease for sure. I might size down to get like a less oversized fit than she has in the photos, but I would have to look a lot closer at the body measurements to see what I would want to do. And again, I don't know what color I'd want to knit this in. I feel like, I don't know, maybe like a baby blue would look really good, or like also like a lavender color would look good in this. She does hers in a red, but I would want it in like a lighter color so you can really see the cables. If I'm putting all that time into cables, I'm going to use a yarn that really shows it off. You know what I mean? The next sweater pattern is actually one I've mentioned many times before that I really want to knit, and that is the Esther sweater by Petite Knit. I've been obsessed with this pattern since I first saw it. I just think it's like probably the most beautiful sweater pattern she's ever released, in my opinion. I actually thought I was going to cast it on recently when I got that yarn, but I didn't have the right amount of yarn for it. So I definitely would like to at least start this sometime in the fall season. And I really want to knit it, I said this before, in like a rosy pink color. Santa's Garn has a few things that might work. They have the shocking pink and the magenta, and then they have the rose lavender, which I feel like the rose lavender is too muted, but I really don't know. Like when I hear the word shocking pink, I'm like, oh, maybe that's going to be too bright. But like just looking at the photos online, it looks like that's the color I want. Like I want like that slightly more saturated, like rosy, deeper pink color. And I feel like that color would look great in it. And I think shocking pink is what she knit her baby version of the sweater in, that's when I got my idea to knit it pink, because she did a baby Esther sweater in this pink color, and I was like, I would like a human-sized Esther sweater, an adult-sized Esther sweater in that color for me, please and thank you. So I really want to find like the perfect yarn for it. One thing that sucks is like I haven't heard the best things about Santa's Garn's silk mohair, and I would have to use like the Peer Gynt or like the double Sunday held with the silk mohair. So I don't know. Again, I struggle really hard finding pinks and like the yarns that I like to use. But I'm sure it can't be that bad. I mean, I think people are always comparing it to Knitting for Olive. So I don't know. I think it'd be fine if I used it. It just would really suck if I like bought the yarn just for the color and I really don't like the texture or something like that. But it's knitted on 4mm needles. So again, she holds a DK and a lace weight together, and the gauge is 18 stitches by 30 rows in the texture pattern. It's kind of like this like diamond, like almost like argyle type design. It looks like it's just all knits and purls, so I don't think it would actually be that difficult. I've never knitted anything like as textured as this, like on a bigger project, but I definitely am excited to do it. I think this sweater, like, I don't like the Esther jacket because I feel like the halo it gets from the mohair, like, really makes this design look so nice, and I really want to have this sweater. A lot of Petite Knits designs, you know, I'm like, okay, they're great, like, they're basic, but this one is, like, really unique. I really like this sweater a lot, and I really want to have this sweater in a pink color. So, in an ideal world, this is definitely happening sometime this year. Comes in sizes extra small to 5XL, and it is a drop shoulder sweater knit from the top down, and it's just got like a regular crew neckline with ribbing. The last pattern is actually a vintage pattern. I posted on my Instagram stories that I've seen so many cool vintage knitting patterns that I really like, and of course there are a lot of obstacles with them, like the yarns that we were written for are discontinued now, or they have limited sizes or limited instructions. But I still would like to really find some cool vintage knitting patterns, and like maybe even do like a vintage knit along. If like I can get together maybe a big list of like resources for vintage patterns with the different designs or different sizes or different levels of instruction, or even like modern patterns that are either based off of or inspired by vintage designs. I feel like that would be a really interesting knit along to do if people would be interested in that. I know nothing about hosting a knit along, but all this to say that I did find a vintage sweater that I want to knit. It's a short sleeve sweater, and it's by Susan Crawford. I don't know if it's by her or if she has like reworked an old pattern. I think she reworks older patterns, like when she does these vintage designs, but it's the Shan sweater. It's just a kind of like boat neck sweater with like a ribbed edge. It's got this cool, like, almost like a chevron, I don't know how else to describe it. It's like a bunch of V's done in like tiny yarn overs. It's a short sleeve sweater. I like that little vintage look where like the ribbing is really tight around the waist and then it kind of billows out like the rest of the fabric. I just really like this design. You can buy it on Ravelry. It's part of a book called A Stitch in Time. I don't have the book, but you can just buy this pattern. It's done in fingering weight yarn. The gauge is 26 stitches in the pattern stitch, which is like I'm not sure what exactly the chart would look like, but it just looks like it's just yarn overs and maybe some purl bumps. It's hard to tell for sure, but definitely a lot of yarn overs. And then even though it is like a vintage inspired pattern, it does have 8 sizes to fit body measurements of between 30 inches and 62 inches. So a lot of people would be able to watch or to knit this pattern. Like a lot of vintage patterns, it's knit bottom up. So if you don't like that, you might not want to do that. But it looks very simple. It doesn't look like it'd be overly complicated. And it is knit, like you knit everything flat and you seam it together. But again, if you want to knit vintage patterns, that's kind of how everything used to be done. So you kind of have to deal with that if you want to knit anything vintage. But I have no problem doing that. This is really beautiful. I feel like this would be really nice in like a blue color or maybe like a greenish color. I don't know exactly what yarn I would use, but it is a fingering weight yarn. And it's knit on 3.25 millimeter needles. But that is everything I have in my queue for the fall. Now, does that mean those are the only patterns I'm going to consider, or that I'm going to knit all of them? No. I'm sure my summer plans probably changed a lot. I started working on the cloud blouse my last podcast episode, and I've already completely scrapped it and started a new project with that yarn. So clearly I am prone to change, but still I get to share kind of the vibe I'm looking for this fall. I get to show you what's kind of inspiring me, what patterns I'm looking at, and that's the fun part of it. So yeah, I don't know what my actual fall knitting roster is going to look like, but this is kind of where I'm at right now. So if you enjoyed that is all for today. Please comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you guys next week with my podcast episode. Bye.